So what got you interested in science and NASA and how what was your path to getting to where you are now?
Okay, there's a story here. So I was always pretty good at math. My calculus teacher in high school signed me up for calculus and just kind of said, "You're gonna be in the class," and I was like, "I guess okay."
Yeah.
I was a theater kid in high school, and so I was full on musical theater. This is what I'm gonna do. My brother's a filmmaker. It's another story. And so I went to New York City to become an actor. And my freshman year of college, my first semester, I was undeclared, and my brother goes to see every film ever. And Interstellar came out,
Okay.
and he was like, "So I went to go see it for the cinematic experience, but you got to see it because you're a geek." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I remember watching it, and we came out. I don't know if you're familiar with Interstellar or not.
No, I don't see a lot of movies, but
Oh my god, it's so good. You got to watch it.
who's in it?
Matthew McConaughey. It's a Chris Nolan film.
Okay.
Jessica Chastain. Um, what's the guy who's in Batman all the time? The older guy who plays
Uh
Alfred.
Gary Oldman? Is that the
No,
guy?
it's
Oh, that yeah, the
King.
British dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Anyway, I went to go see it with my brother. It changed my life, and then two
Wow.
days later, I was like, "That's really cool." Within the same week, I met Chris Hadfield, the astronaut.
I read his book. It's the
Yeah,
book I
I
read like
have it.
6 months
I have it.
ago.
It was
Yeah.
so good. And I was waiting in line to meet him because I was like, "Cool, an astronaut." Everyone had his book. I didn't even know he was an author. I just wanted to meet him, and I was like, "What could I ask him that would just like be apropos for him?" And so I asked him on a whim. I was like, "Any advice for a, rising astronaut?" And he
Hmm.
told me to stay in incredible shape, to read his first book, which I did eventually. And I was wearing a math shirt, and he told me, he's like, "And major in something technical. It looks like you're pretty good at math. That would be a good choice." And I walked out, and I just started crying. I was like, "This is what I need
Wow.
to do." Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was a complete turning point. And then I couldn't stop reading books on space, and I was obsessed. And I was like, "Got to work for NASA." So yeah,
Wow. Interesting.
yeah.
So what are your favorite books on space?
So my first book that I ever read was Space Chronicles by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he kind of just breaks everything down. It's super informative. I love that book. The Martian, it's sci-fi. I loved it.
Okay.
So good. Um, Buzz Aldrin wrote a book called what was it called? No Dream is Too High, and he talks about his journey to the moon and then his life after the moon. Fascinating stuff. If Buzz Aldrin can get imposter syndrome, it makes everyone else feel a little better. Yeah. Off the top of my head, those are the three, I guess.
Okay.
Oh,
So
space book.
I read the An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. Read
Yes.
that one, and then this summer I read Pale Blue Dot by
How
Carl
did you
Sagan.
like it?
It was good. This is kind of my introduction to Carl Sagan.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't get me as like fired up as it probably does
Okay,
other people, but I think it's a really good perspective of, just how Earth is compared to everything else in the solar system.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that book too, and I've skimmed it for research, but I actually haven't like sat down to read it, which
Yeah.
is probably sacrilegious. But yeah, Carl
So I
Sagan's great.
noticed you mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson and reading his book. I saw that you have a photo with him,
Oh
and you have
yes,
photos with other celebrities, including Conan O'Brien and
yeah,
Geddy Lee from Rush, right?
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes, yes. Probably the best one.
So what was Neil deGrasse Tyson like?
I was actually wearing the same shirt that I wore to meet Chris Hadfield to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was a couple years
Okay.
later, and he picked me out of the crowd because he was being surrounded, and I was waiting to ask him or just meet him, I think. And he picked me out of the crowd and he goes, "I love your shirt. What's your favorite kind of math?" And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, calculus. Not my favorite, but he's kind of a gentle giant. The man is huge. I mean, I don't know if you saw his hand. It's like a bear claw.
Yeah.
But he's very I don't know how to explain him. Exactly how you see him on TV. But very, very kind, very kind.
So you're living in New York City, and then you realized, I'm really into space. I wanna pursue this. So what's the next step after that? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
So I went into teaching.
Really?
Yes. For a year, I taught 7th and 8th grade mathematics. And so the goal was astronaut. And one of the routes that you can take is if you teach for 3 years. And I never really got that until I got into teaching. And I said, I understand now.
Why is that?
The mental juggling that you have to do is like it's insane. Putting out several fires and
just from teaching, you get like all these different, you're juggling a lot of different things.
Yes. And just, it's a very high stress environment. And that's why I only did it for a year. I couldn't do it anymore. And I had a coworker who said, just apply to NASA and see what happens. And 2 months later, I got the call. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were teaching in New York, or?
I went back home for a year.
Okay.
So I was teaching in Mission, Texas. Yeah, which is even closer to the border.
So yeah, where are you from? You're from Texas originally.
Yes, Edinburgh.
Okay, which is, I just looked it up this on a map before we recorded this, but it's like right on the border of like Mexico, right next to what's the city with an M?
McAllen.
McAllen. Yeah. So when you were growing up, did you hear a lot about NASA in Houston, or?
Kind of. It was very much, personally sought out. I got a telescope in high school, and so I would like look at, the moon and the planets and stuff, but it was never something that was, it didn't seem very reachable, because it's like, oh, like wicked smart people work there, Yeah. So kind of, sort of, not a whole lot.
I suppose too, like Texas is so big that, what city did you, like, as your community right on the border, what city closest to you did you guys identify with? There's San Antonio and other ones.
No. So when people would ask me in college, like, where are you from? I'd be like, Texas. And they're like, okay, like Austin. I was like, okay, like 5 hours south. And they'd be like, I don't know. But I'd have to literally pull out a map and be like, okay, zoom in, and that part. But, McAllen, Edinburgh, they're not very, very well known if you're not from the area. So yeah.
So like no city really, just
no
Texas,
city,
right?
Yeah.
Huh.